Sid, it's happening. 3 attacks so far.
Well,
Whatever his link is to our past, it ends here. I've seen this movie before.
not this movie, Sydney.
Scream.
Alright people, I know I had to hold off on releasing this review. I was lucky enough to even get any tickets to see this movie. Scream 5, or Scream 2022. It's a film that's being released this coming Thursday, and honestly, a lot of people are really psyched about this film. Now me personally, I've been a fan of the series since I was about 6 years old, 7 years old. I know, you're probably thinking, what 7-year-old is going to see Scream? Well, I was that 7-year-old. I had shitty parents who thought it was okay to allow, a kid to watch a bunch of people get sliced up. In any event, Scream 5 is a slasher film directed by Matt Oberlin and Tyler Gillette, written by James Vanderbilt. Now bear in mind, this is a departure from Kevin Williamson, who was the original writer of the first 4 movies. And it's critical that people understand that this is not a reboot. A lot of times people get confused between the requels and the reboots and the reimaginings and all that shit. But to be quite honest with you, this is a continuation from the original 4 movies. And I get it, everybody didn't see all 4 of the movies, and that's okay. In fact, you only really need to see part 1 and part 4 to enjoy this sequel. And we'll talk about the quality and a lot of stuff in a little bit, but to be quite honest with you, this is a spoiler-free review, so I am going to be very careful about what I say because I'm pretty excited by the movie. I mean, to be quite honest, it's an amazing movie. First things first, Scream 5 is not the same as any of the previous movies. There's a lot of similarities. Of course, there's the meta humor, there is of course the slasher element, there is the whodunit element. Those things are the same. But what the 4 movies prior struggled to do was transition to the next step. Everything was always about Sidney Prescott and her mother and all that stuff. Scream 5 decides, let's go in a slightly different direction, but at the same time still honoring what came before. The premise of the film is 25 years after a streak of brutal murders shocked the quiet town of Woodsboro, a new killer has donned the Ghostface mask and begins targeting a group of teenagers to resurrect secrets from the town's deadly past. So, for those of you who did watch the entire Scream series, you know that everything is set in Woodsboro. Even though they had different locations in Scream 2 and Scream 3, all roads led back to Woodsboro. And this movie is really trying to set Woodsboro up as almost like an Elm Street-ish kind of vibe. For those of you who get the Freddy Krueger reference, you get a gold star. But it's this element of, it's not just Ghostface. It's almost like there's a darkness in this town altogether. And honestly, I can see why Sidney Prescott got the hell out of that town. Anyway, let's get into the plot. Early reviews of the film, a lot of people are not too happy with how slow things were. But if you've seen any of the Scream movies, you know you're not going to get everything at once. Also, don't expect 20 deaths. That's not the Scream way. Scream has always kept the deaths somewhere between 8 to 13 people. This includes the 2 killers. So we're usually not dealing with a carnage or bloodbath kind of scenario. But I will tell you one thing, the kills in this movie are pretty intense, emotionally draining. It's not for the weak of heart. I definitely encourage people to check out Scream 1 and Scream 4 to get an idea of the level of carnage you're going to see in this movie. Let's talk about the cast. The OG3, Nev Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox, needless to say, are amazing. This is their 5th film. They know these characters, they know how to come across authentic and effective, and I would argue that David Arquette's performance is probably the best I've ever seen him in any film. He doesn't get enough play, but David Arquette definitely gets the job done, and definitely got the job done in this film. Nev Campbell, if you've seen any of these Scream movies, you already know what time it is. Nev Campbell is amazing in this film. Hope to see a lot more of her. I feel like she's doing a lot more this year, so definitely check out some more of her films. She was amazing. Courtney Cox, another one, amazing at what she does. But if you guys have been following the Scream film, you've seen this arc with Courtney Cox's character. She starts off kind of this self-absorbed, monstrous uber bitch, and then she starts to become more refined as she become, more of a hero. She's back to that bitch character. So some people may be a little shocked by how much she devolved, but when you watch the movie, you're going to understand why. There is a bunch of newbies too. Melissa Barrera, she was amazing, very effective. Jenna Ortega, another extremely amazing performance. Jack Quaid, saw him in the Hunger Games. He murdered Rue. He's an ass, but he's very effective in this movie. Also, Mason Gooding, that is Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son. He wasn't great, but honestly, his lackluster performance was buried by the amazing performance of everyone else. So when I say the cast was very effective of telling the story, keeping people engaged, I really mean that. I'm going to give Scream 5 an A-, and the small things that are throwing the movie off are easily ignored. There's too many great elements of this film to pass, so definitely check it out this Thursday.